As people grow older, many become more careful about the foods they eat, the medicines they take, and the lifestyle habits they adopt. However, one of the most overlooked aspects of daily health lies right inside the refrigerator. For decades, people have been taught that keeping food cold is the safest way to protect freshness and prevent waste. While refrigeration is essential for certain products, there are many everyday items that actually lose their quality, nutrients, and in some cases even develop harmful compounds when exposed to cold temperatures. For seniors, whose bodies are already more sensitive to changes in nutrition and digestion, this knowledge can make a dramatic difference. Let us begin with a food almost everyone has in their kitchen: potatoes. On the surface, it seems harmless to toss them into the refrigerator, but science shows that this simple act sets off a damaging process. When stored in cold temperatures, the starch inside potatoes turns into sugar far more rapidly than it would at room temperature. Once those potatoes are cooked, the sugars interact with amino acids and form a compound called acrylamide. Researchers classify acrylamide as a probable cancer risk. Even more concerning, this chemical transformation takes place faster than many realize. Within only 2 weeks of cold storage, the sugar level in potatoes can triple. Apart from the hidden chemical changes, refrigeration also ruins the natural texture of potatoes. Instead of remaining firm and neutral in taste, the cells inside the potato collapse, leading to a gritty, overly sweet flavor. This is why mashed potatoes sometimes taste unpleasantly strange, even when the recipe is unchanged. Proper storage requires a cool but not cold environment, ideally between 45 and 50 degrees Fahrenheit, in a dark space that allows air to move freely. A paper bag or open basket works far better than plastic, which traps moisture and speeds up decay. There is even another surprising rule: potatoes and onions should never be stored together, as the gases they release cause both foods to spoil more quickly. Bread is another common staple that suffers inside a refrigerator. While many people believe cold storage slows down spoilage, the truth is almost the opposite. In bread, refrigeration accelerates the process of starch retrogradation, which means that starch molecules reorganize themselves into crystals and squeeze out moisture. The result is bread that becomes stiff and dry far sooner than if it had simply been left on the counter. Studies have shown that bread placed in the refrigerator becomes stale up to 6 times faster than bread kept at room temperature. The loss is not only about texture. Bread also contains delicate aroma compounds that create its warm, comforting flavor. Cold conditions break these compounds apart quickly, which explains why refrigerated bread tastes bland and lifeless. The ideal method is to keep bread in a box or paper wrapping at room temperature, with some airflow to prevent mold while still holding enough humidity to stay soft. If a loaf is too large to finish within a week, the freezer provides the best solution. Freezing halts the staling process, and frozen slices can be placed directly into a toaster, returning nearly the same freshness as the day it was baked. Honey tells another fascinating story. Known as one of the few foods that never spoils, honey has been found intact in ancient tombs thousands of years old. Yet when placed in a refrigerator, this golden liquid undergoes unwelcome changes. Cold temperatures encourage rapid crystallization, turning smooth honey into a gritty, hardened substance that is difficult to use. Even worse, opening and closing a cold jar introduces condensation, allowing moisture to sneak in. That small amount of water not only affects texture but also reduces honey's natural antibacterial strength. Honey contains hundreds of compounds that give it both flavor and medicinal power. When stored in cold environments, many of these compounds break down unevenly, leaving the honey tasting flat and losing some of its protective qualities. Research has shown that honey held below 50 degrees Fahrenheit may lose more than 1/3 of its antimicrobial activity. This is why civilizations once relied on room temperature honey for wound healing, not refrigerated honey. The right way to preserve honey is simple: keep it sealed at normal room temperature, ideally between 64 and 75 degrees Fahrenheit, away from direct sunlight. If crystals form, the honey can be gently warmed in water to restore its liquid form without losing value. Interestingly, darker honeys are richer in antioxidants but also more sensitive to cold damage, making proper storage even more critical for seniors who rely on these nutrients for health. Among the most beloved morning rituals is the smell of freshly brewed coffee. Yet, without realizing it, many people sabotage that experience by storing coffee in the refrigerator. Coffee beans are remarkably porous, meaning they absorb odors from their surroundings with ease. Inside a refrigerator filled with leftovers, cheeses, and other strongly scented foods, coffee acts like a sponge, pulling in unwanted flavors. The next time the beans are brewed, the once rich aroma can taste strange, flat, or even unpleasant. Temperature changes create additional harm. Refrigerators do not maintain a perfectly stable climate. Doors are opened and closed constantly, causing small but significant fluctuations. Those fluctuations create condensation on the beans, allowing moisture to form. Moisture, in turn, triggers premature aging of the coffee, and even encourages mold growth in some cases. Scientific studies show that refrigerated coffee beans lose more than half of their delicate aromatic compounds within only a week. Cold temperatures also affect the natural oils inside coffee beans. These oils are where much of the flavor resides. When chilled, they solidify, making it difficult for them to release properly during brewing. Instead of a deep, full-bodied cup, the result is weak and flavorless. For individuals who rely on a comforting cup of coffee to begin their day, this difference is noticeable immediately. The best solution is not complicated. Coffee should be stored at room temperature in an airtight, opaque container that protects it from light, air, and humidity. A ceramic or metal container works well, as long as it is kept tightly sealed. Ideally, coffee should be purchased in small amounts that will be used within 2 weeks. Once a bag is opened, the clock begins ticking on freshness. For those who must store coffee longer, freezing small portions is acceptable, but refreezing must be avoided because repeated thawing damages the beans beyond repair. Garlic presents an entirely different set of dangers when placed in the refrigerator. While garlic is often praised as a natural medicine with antibacterial and antiviral properties, refrigeration strips it of much of its power. Within 10 days of cold storage, garlic can lose nearly half of its beneficial compound known as allicin. Allicin is the element responsible for garlic's healing reputation, supporting the heart, fighting infections, and boosting immunity. By chilling garlic, seniors essentially discard one of nature's simplest remedies. Refrigeration also encourages sprouting. Those green shoots that emerge from cloves may look harmless, but they are bitter and can cause digestive discomfort. Worse still, the damp, cold conditions of a refrigerator invite mold to grow on garlic. Some molds produce dangerous mycotoxins, which can cause serious health issues if consumed. For a food meant to protect health, improper storage can ironically turn garlic into a threat. Even in terms of cooking quality, refrigerated garlic performs poorly. The cold breaks down its structure, turning firm cloves into a mushy paste that sticks to knives and loses its punch in recipes. Anyone who has struggled to mince soft, sticky garlic has likely experienced the results of refrigeration. The safest and most effective way to store garlic is in a cool, dry environment with good airflow. A mesh bag or open basket kept around 60 to 65 degrees Fahrenheit is perfect. Garlic should never be sealed in plastic because it needs to breathe. With these conditions, a whole head of garlic can last for months, while individual cloves should be used within about 10 days once the head is opened. By avoiding refrigeration, garlic retains both its health benefits and its rich flavor, making meals healthier and more enjoyable. Bananas are one of the most commonly purchased fruits in the world, but they are also one of the most frequently mistreated in terms of storage. Many people place bananas in the refrigerator believing this will preserve them for longer, when in fact the cold environment causes serious damage. Bananas are tropical fruits, and their cells were never designed to endure chilling. When exposed to temperatures lower than their natural comfort zone, their cell walls rupture. Enzymes leak out, and the fruit begins to break down from the inside. What appears on the surface as blackened skin is actually a sign of injury at the cellular level. The impact of refrigeration goes far beyond appearance. Research has shown that bananas stored in cold conditions can lose up to 80% of their vitamin C content in less than a week. Since bananas are an important source of vitamins and minerals, particularly for seniors who depend on consistent nutrient intake, this loss is highly significant. Bananas also continue to develop beneficial compounds while ripening at room temperature, but refrigeration halts this natural process entirely. The blackened skin and brown spots often seen on refrigerated bananas also point to another concern. These darkened areas are not simply cosmetic flaws, they are signals that parts of the fruit tissue have died. Dead tissue creates an opening for bacteria and mold to develop, even if it is not yet visible. This makes refrigerated bananas not only less nutritious but also less safe. Proper banana storage is straightforward. They should be kept at room temperature, ideally between 56 and 70 degrees Fahrenheit. A banana hook or stand is useful to prevent bruising, as hanging allows air to circulate evenly. To manage ripening speed, bananas can be placed in a paper bag with an apple to ripen faster, since apples release ethylene gas. Conversely, separating the bunch and wrapping each stem in plastic slows down the release of ethylene, delaying the ripening process. Once a banana has reached the perfect ripeness, it can be refrigerated for 1 or 2 days at most, but a better solution is to peel and freeze them for smoothies. In this form, frozen bananas create a creamy texture without the need for ice, preserving their usefulness without compromising nutrition. Onions face a completely different problem when placed in the refrigerator. At first glance, onions seem like hardy vegetables that can withstand any environment, but humidity is their greatest enemy. A refrigerator maintains humidity levels around 95%, which is far too high for onions. This damp environment penetrates the onion's papery layers, creating conditions perfect for mold growth. Black mold in particular is a major risk, as it can produce aflatoxins, some of the most toxic compounds known in food science. Even before mold appears, cold temperatures change the onion's internal chemistry. The starch inside an onion is converted into sugar, altering both flavor and cooking performance. Studies have shown that refrigerated onions can have sugar levels nearly 3 times higher after just 2 weeks. This unwanted sweetness can ruin recipes and makes it impossible to achieve the deep caramelization that onions are valued for. Texture also suffers greatly. Ice crystals form within the cells, breaking them apart and leaving onions soft and watery. This structural breakdown prevents them from cooking evenly and eliminates the rich, golden browning that is a hallmark of well-prepared onions. For anyone who enjoys dishes such as soups or stir-fries, the difference is immediately noticeable. To store onions correctly, they should be kept in a cool, dry, and ventilated environment, ideally between 45 and 55 degrees Fahrenheit. Mesh bags, baskets, or even pantyhose can be used to allow airflow. Onions must never be stored in plastic bags, as they require breathing room. They should also be kept separate from potatoes, since both release gases that cause the other to spoil faster. Once an onion is cut, however, the rules change. At that point, refrigeration becomes necessary, and the cut onion should be sealed in an airtight container and consumed within a week. Whole onions, on the other hand, should never enter the refrigerator if quality and safety are the goal. Tomatoes are often considered one of the most versatile and nutrient-rich foods, but refrigeration damages them in ways that go far beyond taste and texture. While many people have experienced the disappointment of a mealy tomato, few realize that cold storage disrupts the fruit at the genetic level. Scientific studies have demonstrated that refrigeration shuts down the very genes responsible for creating the compounds that give tomatoes their unique flavor and aroma. Once these genes are deactivated, they do not fully recover, even if the tomato is later returned to room temperature. The result is a fruit that may look red and intact on the outside, but inside it is nothing more than a water-filled balloon with very little nutritional or sensory value. The signature sweetness and acidity that make tomatoes refreshing and delicious are erased. For seniors who rely on tomatoes as a key source of antioxidants, particularly lycopene, the damage is even more severe. Lycopene has been linked to protecting the heart and reducing the risk of certain cancers. Cold storage not only reduces lycopene levels by up to 65%, but also destroys the enzymes required for the body to properly absorb what remains. The physical structure of refrigerated tomatoes tells the same story. Under a microscope, ice crystals can be seen piercing the cell walls, leaving behind a shredded texture. This explains why tomatoes taken from the refrigerator often feel grainy and watery. Once the cell structure collapses, there is no way to restore it. A fresh tomato loses its very essence, making it unfit for salads, sandwiches, or any recipe that depends on firmness and flavor. The correct approach to storing tomatoes emphasizes room temperature and natural airflow. Tomatoes should be kept stem side down, which prevents moisture from seeping in through the stem scar and protects against bacterial invasion. The ideal temperature range is between 55 and 70 degrees Fahrenheit. Unlike potatoes or onions, tomatoes benefit from indirect light, which helps maintain their nutrient profile. They should never be sealed in plastic bags, since the ethylene gas they release will become trapped and accelerate rotting. A single spoiled tomato can ruin an entire batch in less than a day when enclosed this way. Timing also plays an important role. Once ripe, tomatoes should be used within 3 to 5 days for peak quality. If there are too many to consume at once, the best preservation method is to cook them into sauces or soups and then freeze these prepared foods. Interestingly, cooking tomatoes actually increases the availability of lycopene, and freezing cooked tomato products locks in their nutritional strength. This method ensures that the health benefits are maintained while avoiding the destructive effects of refrigeration. The importance of avoiding refrigeration becomes clearer when considering the role of tomatoes in senior nutrition. With age, the body's ability to fight oxidative stress declines, making antioxidants such as lycopene even more critical. By keeping tomatoes at room temperature and consuming them fresh or cooked, seniors can maximize their protective qualities and enjoy meals that are both healthy and flavorful. The lesson here is not simply about taste preference but about maintaining cellular integrity and preserving valuable nutrients. Refrigeration strips tomatoes of the very qualities that make them a cornerstone of healthy diets worldwide. By treating them correctly, households can ensure that this fruit continues to deliver its full benefits. As we move forward, another food reveals even greater consequences when placed in the refrigerator. Avocados, admired for their healthy fats and creamy texture, face some of the most devastating changes in cold conditions. Understanding why this occurs is essential for protecting brain health, heart function, and overall vitality. Avocados have become a symbol of modern healthy eating, often praised for their abundance of essential nutrients and their role as a natural source of healthy fats. However, refrigeration strips avocados of these very qualities. At first glance, one might think that chilling an avocado simply delays ripening, but the truth is far more damaging. Cold temperatures initiate a process known as lipid peroxidation, where the beneficial fats within the avocado oxidize and turn into harmful compounds. Instead of supporting the body with heart-friendly monounsaturated fats, the fruit begins producing free radicals that accelerate cellular aging. Scientific studies highlight just how serious this transformation can be. Within only 4 days of refrigeration, avocados can lose up to 90% of their antioxidant activity. Vitamins E and C, both powerful protectors against inflammation and oxidative stress, deteriorate rapidly. For seniors, who depend on these antioxidants to safeguard their vision, heart, and immune system, such a drastic loss cannot be ignored. A fruit that should act as a shield for the body is rendered almost powerless by improper storage. The damage extends beyond nutrients. Refrigeration activates enzymes that hasten the breakdown of the fruit's structure. Polyphenol oxidase, the enzyme responsible for browning, becomes hyperactive in the cold. Instead of working slowly on a cut surface, it races through the fruit, breaking cell walls and turning the flesh stringy, watery, and bitter. The creamy consistency that makes avocados ideal for spreads and salads disappears, leaving a disappointing texture that no preparation can redeem. This breakdown is why refrigerated avocados often separate into oily layers and fibrous strands. Not only does this ruin the eating experience, but it also indicates that the fruit's internal chemistry has shifted away from nourishing fats and toward degraded compounds. Even popular dishes like guacamole lose their appeal when made from cold damaged avocados, because the smooth blend turns uneven and the flavor becomes sharp instead of mild. The correct method for handling avocados is much simpler. Unripe avocados should always be stored at room temperature, ideally between 65 and 75 degrees Fahrenheit, where air can circulate freely. If faster ripening is desired, placing them in a paper bag with a banana will expose them to ethylene gas and cut ripening time in half. This natural method allows the fruit to mature without sacrificing nutrients. Once an avocado reaches perfect ripeness, it can be refrigerated for a very short period of 2 to 3 days if absolutely necessary. But even then the quality will decline. A better strategy is to buy avocados at varying stages of ripeness so that some are ready immediately while others mature later. This staggered approach ensures a steady supply without needing refrigeration. For those who use only part of an avocado at a time, there are practical ways to preserve the unused portion. Keeping the pit inside the leftover half reduces the surface area exposed to oxygen. Brushing the exposed flesh with lemon juice helps slow down browning, while placing it in an airtight container alongside a piece of onion provides sulfur compounds that protect freshness. This method can extend usability for up to 2 days without the harsh effects of refrigeration. The difference between a properly stored avocado and one that has been chilled is dramatic. One offers brain-boosting fats, a creamy consistency, and a treasure of antioxidants. The other delivers degraded oils, a broken texture, and reduced health benefits. For seniors striving to maintain cognitive function, heart health, and strong immunity, avoiding refrigeration is not just a matter of taste but a matter of preserving life-enhancing nutrients. The journey through these 9 foods reveals a surprising truth: refrigeration is not always the friend it appears to be. While cold storage is necessary for items such as dairy, meat, and fish, many everyday foods lose their integrity, flavor, and even their health-giving qualities once they are exposed to the wrong environment. For seniors, whose bodies thrive on every ounce of nutrition available, understanding this hidden danger becomes a powerful tool for improving daily life. Potatoes that transform into sugar traps, bread that stiffens 6 times faster, and honey that loses its antibacterial force all demonstrate how delicate foods can be when handled incorrectly. Coffee beans, once aromatic and rich, quickly absorb refrigerator odors and grow lifeless in flavor. Garlic, nature's healing bulb, becomes mushy and loses half of its medicinal compounds. Each example highlights the same lesson: refrigeration is not a universal solution, but rather a method with specific boundaries. Bananas that blacken and lose their vitamin C, onions that turn overly sweet and risk mold contamination, and tomatoes that literally have their genes shut down all show the depth of damage that cold conditions can cause. For many, the visual cues, such as bruised skins or watery textures, seem like minor inconveniences, but science tells us these changes go deeper. They indicate that nutrients are being lost, protective compounds are being broken down, and dangerous substances may even be forming. Avocados demonstrate the most dramatic case. A fruit celebrated for its role in brain and heart health is stripped of 90% of its antioxidant power within days of being chilled. The creamy texture turns stringy, and healthy oils degrade into harmful radicals. This transformation serves as a clear warning: the refrigerator, when misused, does more than reduce flavor. It can undermine the very reason we choose these foods in the first place, our health. For seniors in particular, small changes in storage practices can translate into meaningful improvements in well-being. A ripe tomato that retains its lycopene, a garlic bulb that keeps its allicin, or a banana that maintains its vitamin C can all make a difference in protecting the body against disease, fatigue, and cognitive decline. Proper storage ensures that these foods fulfill their purpose as natural medicines rather than becoming diminished shadows of themselves. The practical solutions are simple and cost nothing. Store potatoes, onions, and garlic in cool, dark, ventilated spaces. Keep bread in a box or paper bag at room temperature, freezing only what cannot be consumed quickly. Place honey on a shelf away from direct light, and enjoy its natural properties for months. Protect coffee beans in opaque, airtight containers on the counter. Allow bananas and avocados to ripen at room temperature. Using simple tricks like paper bags with apples for faster ripening or wrapping stems to slow the process. These are not complex rules but rather small shifts in daily habits. By making these adjustments, households save money by reducing waste, preserve taste and texture, and most importantly, safeguard valuable nutrients. When health is viewed as a lifelong investment, every decision matters, even something as ordinary as where food is kept after shopping. The refrigerator has long been seen as a symbol of safety, but knowledge reveals a deeper truth. It can be both guardian and destroyer, depending on how it is used. By respecting the natural needs of different foods, people can reclaim the full nutritional power that nature intended. For seniors determined to stay strong, sharp, and energetic, this awareness provides not only better meals but also a healthier, more resilient life.